All right. Hello and welcome to the 215 Workman's Podcast. My name is Brother Robert Reynolds from KJBRD Radio in Lipa City, Batangas, Philippines. This is the podcast of myself and Brother Landon Dunn. Appreciate y'all being with us today to hear this message that we have for you. Pray it's a blessing to you and a help to you. Pray it helps you learn to rightly divide the word of truth. Amen. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to preach a little bit on we see through a glass darkly. We see through a glass darkly. So go with me to 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and we will read verse 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 12. All right, verse 12 in the King James Bible says this: For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. All right, so Paul is saying that we see through a glass darkly for now. What does he mean by that? Well, do you remember the crystal sea or the sea of glass? This is the deep that is between the second and third heavens. The face of the deep is frozen. Amen. So look at Job 38. Job 38, and let's read verses 29 and 30. Job 38, verses 29 and 30. Out of whose womb came the ice and the hoary frost of heaven? Who hath gendered it? So the context is heaven here. Okay. Verse 30. The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. And let's keep going so you see this. Verse 31, canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? In verse 33, knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou see the dominion thereof in the earth? Okay, so the face of the deep is frozen. It looks like glass. All right, let's go over to Revelation 4 and verse 6. Revelation 4 and verse 6. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were four beasts full of eyes before and behind. So notice before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. That is the deep that is between the second and third heaven. Remember when God divided the waters from the waters? Now there's waters up above the firmament and waters below the firmament. The waters up above the firmament are the deep. That is the crystal sea. All right, so now if you go below this sea of glass, you have the second heaven. This is where the sun, moon, stars, planets are all at. It is part of the firmament. God made this firmament in Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. Let's go there. Genesis 1, verses 6 to 8. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And in verse 8, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. You see that? All right, this is called space. And space is dark. And darkness is never good. And it's associated with God's wrath. Okay, Isaiah 9:19. Isaiah 9 and verse 19. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts, notice Lord is all capitalized. So that is the God of heaven. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his brother. All right, so now, if we look up into space, we will see darkness. We cannot see the third heaven. The third heaven is where God is at. Now, one day, whether by death or by rapture, we will be with the Lord forever and ever, and we will see Him as He is. We will see Him face to face. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 8. 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 8. For we are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see. Amen? Now, take a mirror. We look through a glass and we see our reflection. Behind that glass, it is black. It's dark. If we turn it around, the darkness is what we will see. And it will look like space. Amen. One day we will see the Lord face to face. But right now, we see through a glass darkly. Amen. All right, I'll go ahead and stop right there. Thank you so very much for being with us today. Thank you for your prayers for us, our families, our ministries. Till next time, God bless you.